we are looking at foreign policy and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's meeting in Cambodia today for the first face-to-face meeting since House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August. China's defense minister telling Austin Taiwan is at the core of Beijing's interests, and it is a red line that must not be crossed. Lloyd Austin is urging China to avoid, quote, destabilizing actions toward Taiwan. Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane. And General, I did not call the minister, Lloyd Austin's counterpart, because I don't know that you can call him his counterpart. Is he a counterpart, or is the most important people in Beijing the Politburo?
Well, the most important people are the 7 on the Special Select Committee. They're the people that run China. President Xi is the director of that committee. But what is good here is, number one, Austin certainly put on the table China's intimidation and coercion of Taiwan and the South China Sea at writ large, and made the point, you know, that it's China that's destabilizing the situation out there. And that is what needs to be said to these folks. I mean, and we also have to have a healthy dose of skepticism here. We welcome the talks, certainly. They were broken off because of the Pelosi visit. And if there's going to be the counterpart talks after the Biden-Xi summit, good thing. But let's be realistic also. We did so much talking with Putin prior to Ukraine. Counterpart talks ad infinitum, President Putin and also President Biden talking, and it did not stop them from their aggression and invasion of Ukraine. Why? Because Putin was convinced that was in his national interest. He's absolutely obsessed with taking it. And that can be applied to where we are. Talks are good, but also recognize that actions are really what we have to follow here. And we have got to counter the Chinese actions.
But what about this? I mean, this is their red line, right, General? I mean, they keep saying this in every meeting, do not cross that red line. And we've got the ambiguity of the U.S.'s policy, but, you know, they're putting it out there. Austin also said that the Ukrainian forces are in a good position to keep fighting Russian forces through the winter. But first, your thoughts on the red line that China continues to reiterate regarding Taiwan.
Well, we're not going to do anything that crosses any red line. We would only act if China crossed the red line. China's already broken the Taiwan Relations Act by the intimidation and coercion. That act said maintain peace and stability in the cross straits between Taiwan and China. They violated that. And if they and the threatening by force for 10 years, President Xi has done that, and he sped it up, obviously, rather in the last few years. That's also a violation. He's threatened to take a country over by force. That's a violation of the agreement. So this is rhetorical nonsense that they're putting out there that don't cross the red line. I mean, I wish Biden had looked Xi in the eye and said to him, listen, President Xi, if you invade Taiwan, you have crossed the red line, and you're forcing me to do something I don't want to do, and that is respond militarily, and I'm going to encourage my allies to do the same thing. And the only reason we're doing it is because of your actions. We want stability in the region. We don't want to have to send all these arms and equipment to Taiwan. We're only doing that because you're threatening to take it by force.
Right. It's very discouraging that he won't say any of that, okay? And this is what is so troublesome, because we're dealing with a very serious adversary. They're also supporting Russia. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is now urging member nations to support Ukraine for the long haul, quote unquote. General Keane, what are your thoughts? Are you expecting this war, Russia's war on Ukraine, to go deep into the winter months? Is this going to end anytime soon? How would you assess things?
No, it's not going to end anytime soon. Russia has not given up at all on the idea that at some point they want to topple this government. They're obviously on the losing end of this thing. That is why they're making war against the Ukrainian people and impacting all the suffering on them by taking their power away from them during the wintertime when they're going to be freezing, obviously, and they can't use water. The kids aren't going to school. They can't use the internet to remotely school them because for obvious reasons. There's no power to charge anything. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to go through the winter. It's mud there now. Next month it'll start to freeze. They'll be able to move their vehicles around a lot better. Ukrainians clearly want to take back territory and liberate their people who are suffering significantly under Russian occupation. And I believe we should help them as much as possible to do that. I don't think we get to the point, Maria, where negotiations will take place seriously until there really is a stalemate. In other words, the Ukrainians can't go any further. The Russians can't take any territory back. There is a genuine stalemate, and then there likely would be some kind of negotiations and some kind of an agreement. But that's not in the cards right now. Right now, the Ukrainians do have an advantage, and they're going to continue to attack to liberate their people, and we should support them in doing that.
And now in comes Iran, right? Iran and Russia reportedly reaching an agreement to begin building attack drones in Russia. Iran is already transferring blueprints and key components to Russia, which could allow production to begin within months, General Keane. So you've got people still protesting on the ground in Iran, and the supreme leader empowered now with a partnership with Russia.
Yeah, we're 66 days into this protest movement in Iran. This is absolutely stunning. This is over 100 cities, Maria.
Unbelievable.
And now up in Mahabad, in the Kurdish part of Iran, in the last couple of days, they brought tanks, fighting vehicles, machine guns, and helicopters. And if anybody was on the street, they mowed them down. Anybody, whether they were protesters or not. If you showed yourself, they were going to kill you. So this is bringing the army onto the street that killed protesters and innocent people. And they've got thousands of them in the jail. I don't know why this administration is not organizing the world effort to come out and speak against the Iranians and what they're doing and support the protesters. This doesn't cost us any money. It doesn't cost us any guns. It doesn't cost us any lives. But why aren't we supporting them the way Reagan supported the protesters against the communists back in the 1980s? There should be a clarion call to do this. This is a huge opportunity. We have said from the beginning, there's not going to be a military regime change in Iran by United States or Israel. What's going to happen here is the people at some point will overthrow the regime. Well, this could be the moment. We don't know, but we should be helping them. And we should be punishing the Iranians for helping the Russians as well. I mean, all-out sanctions go back to the double-down sanctions that the Trump administration had. By now, we should put to bed the idea of an appeasement nuclear deal with the Iranian nation. I mean, that's ridiculous at this point, given their behavior.
And that's why we keep spotlighting it, because it could be a moment in time that is huge, that the people actually are heard in Iran, and yet this administration refuses to get tough on these dictators. Won't get tough on Iran, won't get tough on Russia, won't get tough on China. It's the same over and over. But, General, we so appreciate your time and your thoughts on all of this. We so appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, Maria, you and the whole team there.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and family. Thank you so much.